Okay, Dr. Gemara. So we learned yesterday the sugya of the tour for women to allow that they should be allowed to cut their beard and cut their payas, and we learned how there's psukim in the parsha of Kahuna, and there's psukim in the actual parsha of payas and Zokn itself, and the Gemara came out the maskana that women are not prohibited from cutting their payas, nor are they prohibited from cutting their beard. Now, in the pasuk that discusses by Kahuna the iser for a kohen to cut his beard, that pasuk even before the discussion of the beard, the pasuk says, "La yikachu korcha b'roisham." It says that kircha is aser, and we learned yesterday that Yosy told us that the iser of Val Yikachu does not apply to noshim, and once again, just like in the sugya of Hashchashas Hazokein, there's a pasuk that discusses it l'gabi kahanim, and there's a pasuk that discusses it l'gabi kol Yisrael. By Korcha, the same thing applies. And Yosy said that the Isser does not apply to Noshim because the pasuk that talks about the Isser Ra'al Klal Yisrael starts off with Banim Atem Lashem Alakechem. So we learn Banim V'loi Banais, followed by two Isurim, Lois Eskoididu and Lois Esimu Korcha Beineinechem. And after it mentions these two Isurim, the Torah mentions Kiam Kodesh Lashem Elokecha. Kiam Kodesh Lashem Elokecha includes women because women are also Lam Kodesh. Banim Atem Lashem Elokechem excludes women. So we have one pasuk that excludes and one pasuk that includes. So the Gemara said it's logical to say that we have to include one of the two Isurim, either Korcha or Gedida, and exclude the other. So the logic was we'll include Gedida in the Isur. And we'll say Kiam Kodesh Atal Hashem Elokecha refers to Gedida because Gedida can be done both b'mokum sheyesh sar and b'mokum she'ein sar. Korcha is only going to be by men, not women, because Korcha anyways a more limited issue. It only applies b'mokum sheyesh sar. That's where we left off yesterday. And now the Gemara shares another svar. Abai says, "Oh, thank you very much." Up until 48. Up until 48. So 42. Thank you very much. I don't need that. Okay. So by Amar, Hainu time of the Yosy, the svara of Yosy, why Karcha does not apply to women, is the Gomer Karcha from the Aaron. So this is literally mirroring the sugya we had. He learns it from the parsha of Bnei Aaron, where it says, Karcha b'roisham. Just like Lalon by the Parsha of Kahuna, Noshim are Pturis, Afkan Noshim Pturis. Before it was Gzer Shava Pas, now it's Gzer Shava Karcha. But it's exactly what we learned yesterday about Pas. And the Gemara makes the same assumption. V'svir Lon, the Chiksiv Kra, B'chul Inyanahu D'chsiv. If you're going to say that the Emor Alakayan and Bnei Aharon, Lo Nefesh Lo Yitama Ba'amov, which we learned Bnei Aharon and not Bnei Aharon. And if you're going to say that it applies not only to the Nefesh Lo Yitama, but to everything listed in that sugya, we have the same kasha as yesterday. Nishtoi Kramine. Why do we need a Gzer Shava from Kahuna to Yisrael? You would know it with a simple Kal V'Chomer. V'tesi v'Kal V'Chomer, v'Anamina. And we would say the following Kal V'Chomer. U'Makoy Hanim Sheribo Behem Akos Mitzvah Shiserois. Even Kohanim that have so many mitzvahs, nevertheless, the Isser of Karcha applies only to Bnei Aharon, V'loi Bnei Aharon. Yisrael L'Kolshkein, surely Yisrael, which aren't so covered with mitzvahs like Kohanim, surely the Isser of Karcha should not apply to women. Why do we need a Gzer Shava of Karcha? Zog to Gemara, Ilav Gzer Shava. If it wasn't for the Gzer Shava, Haba Mina Hefseki. I would have said that maybe when it says B'nei Aaron, B'nei Aaron, it only applies to the Isser Tumah, but it doesn't apply to everything else on the list. So here is where we have a bomb kasha. Everyone should be jumping on the over. We just went through the sugya of payas, and we already established that the Bnei Aaron v'lo Bnei Aaron has to be referring to Peyus, which is even after Lo Yikru Karcha B'Roisha. So if we already know that a later portion of the pasuk is covered by the Bnei Aaron v'lo Bnei Aaron, how could the Gemara even entertain an idea that it doesn't include Karcha? And that is Tosfos' kasha. And the Tosfos is there. It's all the Rishonim talk about the kasha, but Tosfos says v'yeshloimer d'sachadai d'chamina d'gabei Karcha the Avabi Shikroivel of Ne'arin, even though it's closer, it would be one item that would be excluded from the list. We should nechsiv ki am kodesh ato the mar ben Hashem b'afilu b'Yisrael. I don't have clear what Tosfos means to say, but the Rishonim say that Karcha would be considered different. Karcha, the Gemara had a have me here that Karcha would be included in the Isser because of ki am kodesh ato.
Right.
The pasuk says that everyone should have that Isser. Sorry,
It should look like a punk.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, this is a punk. A guy so they have to look
That's
like
not that's not what the Isser here. The Isser is only on Karcha Mace. It's not going to
right. But the problem is that Rashi says that Karchu means that it stays like that. So you should look like a punk. You should be
okay. So very good. So let's see the Gemara. So Ilav Gzeir Shava. If it wasn't for the Gzeir Shava, Havamina Hifsek Indian, I would have said that Bnei Aaron v'lo Bnei Aaron does not apply to Karcha. Frankly, more Hashanami name a Hifsek Indian, and now that you have a Gzeir Shava, why does that change anything? V'im Mishom Gzeir Shava. And if you're going to tell me, because what else is the Gzeir Shava telling you? There's nothing else for us to learn from the Gzeir Shava other than to exclude women from the Isser of Karcha. So there's plenty of things that we need a Gzeir Shava for. So as you can see, the structure of this Gemara is identical to the Gemara that we learned yesterday. It says Lo Yikrechu. So Yochel, I would have thought, I would have thought that whole activity is one big Isser, and there'll be one Chiyuv for Malchus. Every single Karcha is going to be Yosser, not by a Kohen. It says Lo Yikrechu Karcha B'Roisha. That's this halacha is expressed by the Kohen. Then it says B'Roisha. What is it B'Roisha? Maybe the only place where there's an Isser Karcha is dafkin between your eyes, Lemeis, which is what it says by Yisrael. I would have thought Isser Karcha is only bedafka in between someone's eyes. How do you know that anywhere on the head where you do karcha, it's a violation of the law? Which it says by koyin l'chayav al'arba. The same issue of bein einayim to do karcha applies to the whole head.
By the way,
I can't by the way today. Ve'enli ella kohanim sheriba behem hakosov mitzvos yiseris. I would have only known that these halachas apply to kohanim, that there's multiple isurim for every karcha. And the Isser applies to the whole head, not just to the Bein Einechem. How do I know Yisrael Minolam? For that I have them Kan Karcha, but never Lalan Karcha. Ma Kan Chayiv al Kol Karcha, v'Karcha, v'Chayiv al Harosh Kevein Ha'inayim, Af Lalon, Chayiv al Kol Karcha, v'Karcha, v'Chayiv al Harosh Kevein Ha'inayim. So don't tell me that Vibalt is a Gzeshav of Karcha. I have to learn the halacha that it doesn't apply to women, only to men. I don't need the Gzeshav for that, because there's plenty of information that I need to pass on from Kahuna to Yisrael, such as the Isser Karcha applies to Kol HaRosh, A, and B, such as it applies on the whole Rosh, not only Bein Einayim, that was the first one, and every Karcha is another Isser. What time is it? Is it 48 yet?
No. 45 seconds.
Malalon, Almeis, Afkan Almeis. We also learn an important thing from Yisrael to Kohen, that it says in the pasuk speaking about Yisrael, it's referring to a karcha because of a mace. It's mourning. So therefore, by a Kohen also, the issue is only if it's to mourn a mace. Zok the Gemara, I still know from extra words here that noshim are p'turis, because im kein nichtet kra leyichlu karach b'rosh. My karcha. From the extra hay in the word, we learn this extra halacha that it applies to anoshim and nothing. So those are our different shatim. Okay, thank you very much. Rav Amar, last year talking about I appreciate the warning. Rav Amar, Hainu Taima, the Isi, you know what the Svara of Isi is? So far, we have one Svara, we have the Svara of Abaye, who says we learn it out of Kahuna. Rava says we don't learn it from Kahuna. The Aleph Beinei Nechem Mitfilin. We have Gzera Shava of Alikul Karcha Beinei Nechem, which it says by Tfilin, to where it says by Karcha, the same thing, by Yisrael. Mal Halon, Noshim Peturis, just like Tfilin, Noshim are Peturis on Tfilin, Afkan Noshim Peturis, so too they're potter from the Isser of Karcha. So we have two different Mekayers, how we know women are potter from Karcha. Either you learn out of Tfilin, or it's Gzera Shava and you learn out of Kohen. Rava, my time, why didn't Rava say Abaye's reason? You learn it out of Kohen. Because maybe Rava holds you can't make a leak from the extra hay and from there build out that the Gzera Shava has to be referring to the exclusion of women. Abaye, my time, why didn't Abaye say like Rava that we learn from Tfilin? Amar Loch, he tells us, Tfilin gufayu mehacha gomer lo. You know how I know that Tfilin, you can't be urged to Tfilin anywhere on your head. It tafka has to be between your eyes, but it can't be mamish in between your eyes. That's the top of your head, opposite where between your eyes are. You know Tfilin. I know that it has to be. It says in the Torah ben Nechem by Tfilin. How do we know that's been top of your head? I know it taka from Karcha. Mal alon makam shoshim Karcha b'goyvel shovash. Just like by Karcha, where do you normally tear your hair out? Not in between your eyes, not your eyebrows that you're taking out. It's your hair that you're taking out. Afkan, so too by Tfilin, Mokay Manocha, the Goy. So once again, the Rishonim ask, if we have this Gzera Shava of Beinei Nechem by Tfilin to Karcha, so in Gzera Shava Lamechza, why can't you learn both things? Sai, that the place where your Tfilin is on top of your head, and Sai from Tfilin to Karcha, that it doesn't apply to women. So Zoktoy says, Umabekach. Mikol Mokim Nelo Karcha Mitfilin. The Ingzer Shavel Lemechza. The name of Matfilin Noshim B'Turis. Hakanami Gabi Karcha. So why would Abaye argue on Rava? Yeshloimar the Shemel Nigmur Gzer Shava Elo Lasheminon Mokim Anachas. Maybe he held that the Gzer Shava was only for the Mokim Anachas Tefillin. Is that right? So once again.
That was the question.
Right. So the Shurim says since it says I'm Kadeshu, the default is that it should apply to women as well. So could be it shouldn't apply to the halacha that women are part shouldn't be fulfilled. But then we have another problem. Because if that's the case, if we learn the Machim Tefillin is the Rosh because Karcha is anywhere on the Rosh. So Ibazoi, don't take it halfway, take it all the way. Take it that anywhere on Tefillin, anywhere on your head where you're Tefillin should be good. If we're learning it from Karcha, and Karcha is B'chalorosh, not only in between their eyes, so Ibazoi, if that's where we're learning Tefillin from, so you should be able to wear Tefillin anywhere on your head. The Shema Lahachi Mahani Hai Ben Enechem, maybe that's why it says Ben Enechem by Karcha, that V'motel Michta B'Roshechem. Should have said Liku Karcha, it doesn't say that, it says Ben Enechem. That tells you something interesting. Ben Enechem by Karcha is to tell you that by Tefillin, the position of the Tefillin has to be on top of your head, but in between your eyes. By Karcha, Ben Enechem, even though the Ben Enechem mentioned by Karcha is not applicable to Karcha, because a Karcha is also B'chol HaRosh, we'll use that to apply to Tefillin, the Ligmar Gzer Shava Nichta. So it's very, very interesting how the Gemara twists into this. Zok Gemara, Vein LaBai, Vein LaRava, either one has a makar for Isi, where Isi knows from that women are parted from this Karcha, which means that they're not going to learn it from the Banamatim L'Shem Alekechem, where the Parsha of Karcha is mentioned by Yisrael, where we learned Banim V'loi Banais. So what are they going to do with that Banim V'loi Banais? Hi Banim, my Darshipeh. The bottom there, we have a whole different limud from. And we learn from there is when does the Kadosh Baruch Hu consider us children? This is mamash nageh to the times that we're in, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Bizman she'atem noeged minhag banim. When you behave like banim, them atem kriyim banim. But einatem noyhagim minhag banim. But if you don't behave, then einatem kriyim banim. Then you're not called banim. Divi Rabbi Yehuda, that's what Rabbi Yehuda is. Now Avoda wants you to tshuva, you're a banim again. But while you're not behaving properly, you're not considered banim. Divi Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir Omer, venkach uvenkach atem kriyim banim. Regardless, you're called banim. Shenemar, banim schelim hema. They're foolish children. They're foolish children. That's one pasuk. So even though we're not doing the right thing, but we're not considered avodim yet. We're considered banim. V'omer, we have another pasuk that says that we're banim. It says banim la'emun ba. That's in Parshas Asinu. So once again, the Lubliner strikes again. Banim la'emun ba. The way Rashi and the Targum and the Arch touches banim la'emun ba is children that have no chinuch. They don't have the chinuch of Torah in them, or at least they don't display it. And we have another pasuk that's even more severe. That says Zera Mereim Banim Ashchisa, meaning they're oiv the Avoda.
If we sin, it's kinder. That's kleine kinder, to make sure.
It says in the pasuk, even where people are saying you're not my nation, in other words, you're not doing averas. We're always, no matter what, we're always born. So this is Reb Meir. Reb Meir said, no matter what we're doing, we're still considered banim. Now, what is the difference if we're banim or if we're not banim? So the Ben Yehoyada explains it very nicely, and we're going to need the explanation to get through this Gemara. He says as follows: Avodim, it's expected that they're going to do work for their Adon, right? So if they don't do, if they do work for their Adon, do they get paid? Of course not. They're Avodim. But if they don't do work, they get punished. Banim, on the other hand, they don't have work. Why would they do work for their father? Out of love for their father, they want to help their father out. Why does my son build a sukkah? Because he loves me. I hope, right? If he doesn't do it, I'm not going to punish him because it's not his job. I'm not going to punish him. But if he does do it, I'm going to thank him. I'm going to say, whatever you want, I'll buy you. Wherever you want to go for Chalamoid, as long as we can walk there, I'll do it for you, right? So the primary difference between Avodim and Banim is Avodim don't get paid for doing work, Banim do. Avodim get punished if they don't do their work, Banim don't. So if we're considered like Banim, then we don't get punished if we don't do our job. If we're considered like Avodim, we will get punished. So therefore, let's see how this chaps and afkamina even more. Why did the Gemara need to bring 4 psukim to demonstrate that we're banim even though we're not behaving properly? Because if it only brought the pasuk that calls us fools, foolish children, when are we considered children? That's when we're acting narish. But kilesbu emnusayu. But we have no chinuch at all. We're totally off the path. Maybe you would say like mikru bani tashma v'omer banim la'eman banim. We're even banim if it's la'eman banim. V'chi tema kilas b'memnusa hu de mikru banim. When we don't have proper chinuch, we're not behaving at all. That's when we're called banim. But kipolchul avodas kachavim. If we're actually doing avodah zara, maybe then like mikru banim. Tashma v'omer zer mereim banim ashchisim. Even b'nei avodah zara, Hashem considers us banim. V'chitema banim ashchisin hu de mikri b'nei ma'alya loy mikri. Maybe we're not called good children. We're called banim ashchisin. Tashma v'omer v'haya b'makom asher yomer lahem lo yamatem yomer lahem b'nei kelchai. B'nei kelchai. So at the end of the day, so what is the difference halacha l'maisa between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir? They both hold we have to do tshuva, and when we do tshuva, everybody agrees that we're banim. The nafkamin is, according to Rabbi Yehuda, then we were not banim. Now that we did tshuva, we're banim. So therefore, if then when we did aveira, we were not banim, we were avodim. So then we would get patched for what we didn't do, and we would not get schar for what we did do. But according to Rabbi Meir, once we do tshuva, lemafreya, we become with the status of banim from day one. So therefore, we'll get schar for everything that we did, and we won't get punished for anything that we did wrong.
Doesn't you remember that you went brisk walking, so you could walk far?
Zok to Gemara. Hasmichos V'atenufois, v'hahagashois. We're talking now about things that women cannot do, and one of the things that they cannot do are avoidance in the Beis Hamikdash. Even a baskoyin, even a woman who's a kohenes, she cannot do avoida. Only a man can do avoida. So smichos are smicha that would be done even by a Yisrael. When you bring the carbon, you have to do smicha. V'atenufois, you have to do tnufa on your carbon. The hahagashois, which is when the kohen brings the mincha. Sorry. Yes, she does. When she's a nazir and when she's a saita. That's right. What? Right. That's not smichas and tenuvas are not alskoin. But from here on, the hagashois that kohen normally has to bring the mincha to the one of the karen. I think my Rabb's drivers of the mizbeach. But kmitzos, which would normally done by a kohen. The haktaros being maktir. By malikos doing malika. Kabbalos vazois nahagas ba'anochim v'loy b'nochim. Nochim can't do that, and the Mishnah speaks out as Dovi mentioned. Put mi mincha saita unazira, except for the mincha of saita and nazira. Shehein manivos there they do participate in the tnufa.
Again, so the first two words means not when she's on the bringing side, when she's on the kabul, even she's a kehenes, she can't do these things outside.
No, smichas and tnufas are talking about which is an owner, and the raya is. But any other carbon that she brought, she wouldn't do it. If she brought a shloma, she wouldn't.
She's a kehenes, she can't do it.
Right. And that's referring to the rest of the items in the Mishnah, which are only done by a kohen on behalf of somebody else.
Doesn't put.
Let's see Rashi.
No stop sign.
I thought is going back on the Edim Anifa. You're going back on the Edim Mageshes. Yearly it's going to but the reason why it's not true is because we're even talking about a carbon shlomim or any other kabbalas that the bailim would bring, she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't do it else bailim. So the tnufa and the smicha that we're talking about is als bailim. The rest of them would be als koy. Notice that shchita is omitted over here. Shchita is omitted because shchita is kosher b'noshim.
Legally,
A woman could do shchita. I'm sorry? She would not do tefillin. She's not. So how do we know that a woman doesn't do smicha? Because it says Daber el b'nei Yisrael, and then this is the beginning of Hikar. This is v'samach. We learn b'nei Yisrael saimchen vein b'nei Yisrael saimches. Men do smicha, women do not do smicha. Tenufais.
this goes back to the Friedrich Blatt that the Bnei Yisrael is men,
Not women. Okay, good. Zog to Gemara weiter. Tenufais. It says Daber el b'nei Yisrael v'heinif. So b'nei Yisrael are the ones who do tenufa. B'nei Yisrael manifin. Vein b'nei Yisrael manifos. Hagoshois dichsiv v'zois teres hamincha hakrivoisa b'nei Aharon v'lo b'nei Aharon. Kemitos. How do we know they don't do kemitzah? Dichsiv v'avia el b'nei Aharon v'kamat b'nei Aharon v'lo b'nei Aharon. Haktares. How do we know they can't be makter? The kemitzah on the mizbeach. Dichsiv v'iktiru oisai b'nei Aharon. B'nei Aharon v'lo b'nei Aharon. Hamalikos dichsiv malak v'hiktir. Iskish malika la'aktar. Just like we showed earlier, it says v'iktiru oisai b'nei Aharon, so that will apply to the malika as well. Gewaltig. Hakabolos dichsiv v'krivu b'nei Aharon. Who's does the akrava? B'nei Aharon. V'amar Mar, and Mar taught us. The krivu zu kabbalas adam. It's referring to kabbalas adam. Okay. The hazois they don't do zrika. In fact, hazar dahech. What hazar are we talking about? In the para, if we're referring to the para, Rashi says hazas dama the para aduma. If we're talking about spritzing of the blood of the para aduma, elazar kasaba. It says elazar. Vafilu shakay hanim sulim v'choskenot. So that's possible. Ide pnim, meaning hazar de pnim, the hazar when you spritz dam from a paras chatos on the paroiches, going to paroiches, muzbech hazar, ha'amur and bepar koyin mashiach uparam dovish al tzibur. These are not karbonos that are brought in Yom Kippur. These are special par of chatos that are if the koyin of mashiach doesn't avera, or if the tzibur doesn't avera because Bezdin made a mistake. Once again, idefnim hakoyin hamashiach kasaba. Dafka the koyin hamashiach lemutei hajoytu. Even that Kohen Hedget is not able to do that. Again, why did the Tana need to tell us this Chiddush that women can't do it? Never mind women. It's a specific Kohen Gadol, only a Kohen Gadol can do it. Ella Hazah, the Ben Oif. It must be Hazah, Tamoif, Rashi says, the Chsiv Bechatas Oif, the Hiza Midah Machatas. Doesn't say who. Our mission needs to tell us Noshim Psulois, that Noshim are Psulois from spritzing the blood. The Nafkalei Mikavachomer Mizrikas Dam, the Oilas Ben Soin. We learn it from a Kavachomer of an oiler that's brought from an animal, not from a bird. The Chsidvei Vizarku B'nei Ahara. The Oshim Bekavachomer Mi Ben Soin. And what is the Kavachomer? Uma Ben Soin Shaloi Kavaloi Koyin L'Shchitas. It doesn't need to have a Koyin Shechted, because we know that Shchita is Ksher B'Zar, as Rashi says. The Chsiv V'Shachat Es Ben Abokar, and it only introduces B'nai Aaron by the Vekrivu B'nai Aaron. And therefore, Mikabala Va'elech Mitzvahs Kuhuna, Limed Ala Shchita Shekser B'Zar. So Madich Shchita, Madich a regular Soin Chatos, which could be shechted by a Zar. Nevertheless, Kavalei Koyin Azar Asai, only a Koyin can spritz it. Rashi says, how do we know that? Let's look at stomach. The Chsiv is Zarku B'nei Aharon. So Benoit. To cover like coin l'melikasa, we know only a coin can shecht or do the malika for a benoif. Ein din sheyikva le'lazi asay. Surely only a coin could do hazah. As Rashi says, benoif should cover like coin l'melikasa. The chsiv we learned a moment ago. V'krivu a coin al mizbeach. Malakas roishay. Kol shekain. The hazah has to be done through a man. Beautiful.
So the kohen is not kohenes. Before everything was the.
Oh, Melita?
Yeah.
No, this is not the Makar that is not a lady. This is a Makar that has to be a Kohen and a Zar.
So
the way we know Malika cannot be done by a woman, the Rashi, or the Gemara tells us, because there's a Malach Victor, Iktish Malika Latar. But there's no possible affairs by Malika excluding a woman. So we know it from the Hekish, yeah. Okay, there the woman does do the tnuf. Omar Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yoshia did Arei. Rabbi Eliezer told Rabbi Yoshia, which Rabbi Yoshia, the one who lived in his times. What does Rashi say? Rabbi Yoshia did Arei. Shayu b'dayrei Amar Kamoisa. There was a Rabbi Yoshia in Rabbi Eliezer's dar who was also an Amora. From here you can learn Shadayin b'mei Rabbi Eliezer Hali Rabbi Yoshia bar Plukte Rabbi Yonasan Kayim. Rabbi Yosy, who usually argues with Rabbi Yonasan, he was an Amora and he must have been still alive in the days of Rabbi Eliezer. Oh, there was another Rabbi Yosy who used to argue with Rabbi Yonasan, was much older than Rabbi Eliezer. But there was a younger Rabbi Yosy, and that's the Rabbi Yosy that we're talking about here. And he said, I don't want you to rest until you can answer me this side.
He told the old Rabbi Yoshia.
No, he told the Darei. He told Rabbi Yoshia the Darei. And he's speaking to the one to Darei, not the old one, because otherwise it was
still there, but it was the older one. There's a trash.
That's not how I understand Rashi. I understand Rashi that it can't be the old one. Because it should have said Rabbi Yoshia. He was not talking to Rabbi Yoshia. He was talking to Rabbi Yoshia the Darei.
He said that Rabbi Yoshia was still living in Rabbi Luz's time.
And that's not the one we're talking about.
It's yet. And still there was an older than
that's not how I understand Rashi. That's not how I understand Rashi, but that's how you understand Rashi. But that's not how I understand. You're now bringing in a third of Yoshia.
No.
But there's no third of Yoshia.
This Yoshi was older than Rabbi Luz. He was still living. He was 20 years old. He was 90 years old.
That's not how I understand Rashi. But you're entitled to your opinion.
Yes.
You're entitled to your opinion. Shlomo, how do you understand Rashi?
You read it to me first, so I'm in my.
So you're biased. You're biased.
I'm biased.
Okay. So Zok to Gemara, don't rest at the Amrit Hashmaitz until you can answer me the shayla. Minay l'minchas soita sheteuna tnufa. How do we know that the minchas soita requires tnufa? Minol on fact tomorrow. What type of question is that? B'gufaksev. It's mefurish in the pasuk. V'heinev is a mincha. El tnufa b'baylim minol. The question is, of Rashi, how do we know tnufa to be b'baylim? Shetei asoita atzma minifasa. How do we know that the woman herself has to make the tnufa on her mincha soita. Dilma lakayin kal marachmana. Maybe the Torah was only instructing the kohen to make the tnufa. It says in the pasuk earlier that the kohen takes the mincha from the woman, so maybe the kohen is making the tnufa by himself. Zok Gemara also yad mishlam. Ksivhacha by soita v'lokach hakohen miyad ha'isha. Uksivhasam by shlamim yodov teviena. Makan kohen ap lalon kohen. Just like by soita, we know the kohen is involved in the tnufa. So too by the shlomim, the kohen is involved in the tnufa. But mal alon bebailim, just like by the parish of shlomim, we know that it's bebailim, afkan bebailim. So how do you have afkan bailim? So how do you have both? Haketzad kohen machnis yodai tachas yad bailim. The kohen puts his hands under the hand of the bailim, umenef and lifts. Ashkon soita. So here we've shown how a soita has to do tnufa. Nazira minolan. How do you know a Nazira has to do tenufa on her own carbon? Asya kaf misoita. We learned the word kaf with Xer Shava from soita. Let's see Rashi. Hachi yisin makan koin afkan koin mal alam bailim afkan bailim yod of taviana bebailim ksiv. It says that by the bailim uvetnufa mishtoi, and it's referring to tenufa kaf misoita v'soita ksiv v'nosan al kapeha v'nosan ksiv v'nosan al kape hanozir.
He touches it.
So there's I didn't see the Tosfos on it, but I remember learning this earlier. But let's peek at Tosfos for a second. Maybe Tosfos does speak about it. Machlis kohen yodo tachas yad abaylim umenif im timer v'avachatzitza. The kohen is not touching the mincha because her hands are in the way. Why? The hechel avid. Linfu vada linfu have two tenuvas, one from each shutif. Kloimar da shutfin zach hazei anifu. Chadet nufa amar achman avolosh deit nufas. V'imana chadin hashutzim yodei tachas yedei dechavrei im can have a chatzitza. Almod b'chayagav have a chatzitza. See, would be a chatzitza. Yishlomid l'adami. There's no comparison. L'achli hainu taima the lo have a chatzitza b'chayagavna. You know why it's not a chatzitza here? L'fishu gzer sakosiv the ba'inan kain nubaylam. The Torah is very explicitly telling us this is how it's done.
Why can't you get?
But Shnei Shutfin, where the Torah doesn't expressly tell us to do this that way, will be Chatitza im Echad Mehen Yaniach Maniach Yodai Tachas Yad Chaveroi Levisha Ein Exer Sakato Sheyu Shnei Manim. Oyesh Lemar the Hachanami Lemar Shakai Maniach Yodai Tachas Yad Bailam Mamich. He doesn't have his hands underneath the Yad Bailam. The Chagav Nahabachit or Rashalem Shaichas a Kli Lamata. But Bailam Ox Lamata, which I think is what Chaim was saying a moment ago. The Hash the Lechat Chatzitza Klal. The Hakinami Ashkan Gabikurim. Shakai no Yoichas Bisvasov, Klemer Bisvasa Kli Lamaila, but Bailam Lamata. There's enough surface area on the Keli that they can all get their hands on it. Hakanami Gabinochis Ibcha Shiyara Bailam Tilamata Viat Koinuma. So that also answers the question how he could touch her. He doesn't have to. If they're holding it in different areas, but we want to the times that they have a shmata. They have a shmata between. There's a shmata between. That's not a chatzitza. There's a whole shiloh of glove they built from there. All shots gloves are chatzitza. It gets into a whole big shiloh.
But the picture of the article that they made is
like that. Okay, let's think more about it. Kol mitzvah, every mitzvah, shehi tluya ba'aretz, ein heges el ba'aretz.
so what time are you going?
So 6:20. Any mitzvah that's tluya ba'aretz is only negay in Eretz Yisrael. And if it's not tluya ba'aretz, then it's not heges bein ba'aretz, bein b'chutz la'aretz. And what these mean, Rashi tells us the Gemara of our
floor.
Chutz mina arla. Arla, Zok Rashi, Ashaf Apisha tluya is ba'aretz, even though it's totally in the ground, it's growing, it's things that are growing. Noihagen af b'chutz la'aretz. The halachas of arla apply in chutz la'aretz as well. Arla halacha. The arla is, I guess, halacha l'mash b'sinai, v'aklayim midivrei soivim, kid l'kaman, the Gemara is going to elaborate. Abelez afachad. Chadash, mila'oichle l'fnei oimer, the iser to eat chadash before the carbon oimer is also something that will be negeah in chutz la'aretz. Zok the heilige Gemara. My tluya umay she'enet tluya. What is the definition of tluya? Ba'aretz and non-tluya ba'aretz. Ilay met tluya d'chsiv ba'biyah. Tluya is the Torah says this will become active, this mitzvah. Once you come in Teres Yisrael, as Rashi says, the Torah taught us that this mitzvah is totally in entering Eretz Yisrael. To go in Kisavayu, Ki Viacha, V'she'ena Tluya is the loiksiv babiyah. It's a mitzvah that the Torah tells us without linking it to entering Eretz Yisrael. Well, v'hari tefillin upetach hamor tiksiv behen biyah. It does say biyah in these two mitzvahs. And Rashi says petach hamor ksibu b'oya ki yiviyacha beparshas kadeshli. And nevertheless, v'noyhagen bein baritz ben b'chutz laretz. Rashi says, where do you know that? Tefillin ashkan b'kamaduchtin v'rabanan ameiroi debavel the malchit tefillin. We find it was common. People wore tefillin, even in chutz laretz. Rabbi Yehuda halchik amar. So this is what it means. Kol mitzvah she chayvas haguf. What does chayvas haguf mean? Hainu ain't it tluya ba'aretz. It's not a chiv on something in the land. It's a chiv on a person. Einu mutelas leil akarka v'leil gidulav. It's not a mitzvah on the ground. It's not a mitzvah on anything that grows on the ground. Al gufo shalodem. The mitzvah is on the guf of the person. Going Shabbos, where the guf adam is not allowed to do malacha, or tefillin, or avodas kechavim, or petach hamor, or mila, or a rayis or chayoytzu behem. So there in the hegas bein ba'aretz bein b'chutz laretz, and chayvus karka ain't in hegas ela ba'aretz. What's chayvus karka? So Rashi shumutelas ala karka. The mitzvah is something to do to the land. Oy gidulav, or something that grows on the land. Going trumois, umaisrois, chala, leket, shikha, upeya, shvius, chadash, orla, klai. Zoktamar minohan amili, and Rashi says, what are we looking for? Minohan amili, the chayves haguf, noiheges, bechol moishavos, wherever we are in the world, chayves haguf is applicable to us, the chayves hakarka ain't elabaretz. Yet chayves hakarka only applies in Eretz Yisrael. How do we know that? Zoktamar the Tanur Rabbanan. Ela hachukim. These are the chukim. Elu hamudrashos. That's referring to mudrashos. V'amishpatim. Elu hadinim. These are referring to the dinim. Asher tishmarun. Zu mishnah. Lasois. Zu ma'isa. So let's see what these things mean. Tishmarun zu mishnah. To mevia l'dei ma'isa. The chsiv tishmarun lasois. I'm not exactly sure what we're learning here. We might have to chazal this again.
You have to learn. So you do the
you have to learn
and the dinim.
Oh, so you have to learn the dinim shemavil de ma'aseh. If you learn it, then you'll do it l'ma'aseh.
Even if it's not pushat chemesh.
Yochel kol mitzvahs kulin lo yehu noyak in el ba'aretz. I would have thought all mitzvahs are only neged Eretz Yisrael. Talmud leimer kol yomim asher atem chayim al ha'adamah. Meaning, bein ba'aretz, bein b'chutz laretz. These mitzvahs apply as long as you're on this world. You have to do these mitzvahs. If it says kol yomim, whenever you were, your whole life when you're on the land, maybe you should apply chutz laretz as well. So now we have something very interesting. We have kol yomim, which seems to tell us no matter where we are, we always have to do mitzvahs. But we also have a pasuk of ba'aretz. We have a riba and we have a meat. So how do we apply it? Say lamad. Now we're up to Pesach already. Say lamad al ezem mehem akasav oimer kol yomim ashetem chayim al hadam. On which mitzvahs is the Torah referring to when it says kol yomim, which means would be nagei even b'chut laretz imash omer beinin. It says abei ta'abadun es kol hamakoyimos asher avdu sham hagoyim. Ma aved kechavim miyuchedes sheichayves aguf. Just like avodah zara is a iser on the guf of person, and therefore when the haggis bein bars bein b'chutz laretz avodah zara is also everywhere. Af kol sheichayves aguf the haggis bein bars bein b'chutz laretz. So Rashi mimash omer beinin the samachlei right after this pasuk. The pasuk says abed abud and it's called mekoyim, referring to avodah zara. Samachlei abed abud. Tahanu avodah kechavim. Ba'aleim nisrabu kol moishavos. All of the moishavos we're saying wherever Yidden are, these mitzvahs apply, are mitzvahs similar to avodah zara, k'nechsiv kol yomim asher tam chayim, v'davar alamed minyanoi, echad miyud gimel midos, he. Right? One of the yud gimels we say is davar alamed minyanoi. We learn from the Indian itself what it's referring to. V'nilmad mikan, the chol chayves aguf, laheges af b'chutz laretz. We learn that even the chayves aguf is applicable even in chutz laretz. Chutz min arla v'aklayim. Zog to Gemara iboya luhu. Rabbi Lezer lekula polik or lechumer polik. Is Rabbi Lezer when he says chutz min ha'arlo min ha'klayim, is he arguing lekula or is he arguing lechumra? V'chi kamar Tanakama. The Tanakama says chutz min ha'arlo min ha'klayim. The Hilchos Gemir law that afal gav the ikal meimer chovis karkahi. Even though you might say the chovis karka, they're going to be like even in chutz la'aretz. Aval chadash, but chadash be'eretz in chutz la'aretz loy. Why should chadash be different? My timer, Moshev la'acher Yerusha v'yeshiva mashma. By chadash it says Moshev, which was mashma dafker after their in Eretz Yisrael. That was the sheet of the Chachamim. Let's see Rashi. Aval chadash loy nog. Chadash does not apply out of Eretz Yisrael. V'aval gav d'chsiv bei mi Moshe v'yiseichen b'seifa the v'lechem v'kali v'karmel. It doesn't mean to tell you wherever you live, Chadash will be applicable. The Loimer Sha'af Ba'aretz Lo Niskraivu called Yudal Chana Shoya Begilgal Shekivshu Shechilku. Even when they were in Eretz Yisrael, the halacha of Chadash didn't apply it till they each got their personal chelik. The Hiker Kolecha de Shaloi. But it's not telling you that it's not only that it applies everywhere, it just means it applies only in Eretz Yisrael, but once you already got the land. And then and Rabbi Eliezer is arguing l'chumra to say that Chodesh is also noig in Chutz La'aretz, my timer, because he learns Moshe Seichem is b'chol mokum shetem yoshim, even not in Eretz Yisrael. Or maybe he's arguing l'kula, and this is what the discussion was. The Tanakama said chutz min ha'arlo v'aklayim. The calls gain chadash the moisev from makom shetem yoshim mashma. So the Tanakama says that all of these three things apply in chutz la'aretz. So chadash and inoik elav oretz the moisev la'acher yerusha v'yeshiva mashma. Okay, let's stop here and we'll be mamshech Hashem tomorrow. We're trying to get a little ahead because we're going to have some full days coming up. Okay, everybody have a wonderful day, an easy fast, and we will catch you in the morning. Tomorrow morning, bright and early at 5:30. Oh, yeah.